All right, welcome to Driven Coast to Coast Car Talk. We are back. It's been, a year?
Around there, yeah.
Around
It's been
a
a
year,
while, man.
yeah.
It's been a while.
And we're here to give you an update on Driven and talk about car shows.
Welcome to Driven Show Coast to Coast Car Talk, where we discuss the latest in automotive trends and the scene.
It's nice to be back. It's been a year since we did any type of a podcast, and it's about time we got back together.
Well, I mean, the season's coming fast. The season is coming fast.
It is, and I mean, there's just so much to talk about, but we're gonna try to keep this under 20 minutes.
Yeah, let's keep it brief.
Keep it brief. I like that plan. My guest, as always, Mr. Jeff, and today we are our special guest is Avery.
Yes.
And you may have recognized Avery. Avery's been to many of our events. I think there isn't any city you haven't traveled to, is there?
Some I haven't because we
Okay.
only landed there once.
Right. And there's a new one this year,
yeah.
which we'll talk about. So lots to discuss. We're gonna give you guys a quick update on which cities we're going to, which cities we're not going to, and
Maybe some new venues.
new venues. That's right. There's some change in venues that we're gonna talk about as well, which will be
And pretty
quick.
exciting, honestly. I mean, it's a
Yes.
pretty cool
Yeah, I think there's
move.
we like the venues we're all in right now. We've got good history in some of the venues that we've had, but always looking for that.
We kind of
next.
outgrew them though.
Some we have outgrown.
Yeah.
I think some I think are just opportunities that just we can't pass up on, right?
Well, and just the general continuous improvement, right? Like you want to keep growing the shows, making them better, bringing more to it. And sometimes that requires a different venue.
Absolutely. And there's also some other things which are challenging, of course, weather and controlling of weather and things like that, and the potential of the takeover environment, which will be another podcast. Right? So let's dig right into it. If you've been watching our social media channels, we have officially kicked off our 2024 registration. So not much to really update people on. It's going brisk. It's going really well, actually. Our team of judges are quickly screening vehicles, and I think our turnaround time is under 72 hours. So I'm really proud of our team, how quickly we've been able to turn around the screening of these vehicles.
What city is leading the charge right now?
That's a great question. The funny thing is Halifax and Ottawa.
Ottawa.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
for me, I like it's natural to have a lot of registration for Toronto, Halifax, and for Calgary because they're our first 3 events of the year. But Ottawa, which is our second last show of the year, surprisingly has a ton of registration.
Excellent.
Yeah, so really excited. I think Ottawa is going to be a great show. There's still space, so please register. We're gonna have we'd like to sell the shows out as quickly as possible so we can focus on other things. But yeah, registration is coming along really brisk. So
Can I just say for 1 second though, the amount of cars that have to be judged going through that screening? I don't think people understand how many vehicles actually apply. But then the other side is they ask, please make sure to include more information. Like, how many times have we seen somebody make a post with one vehicle picture and description, and half the time that's not going to fly?
Yeah, I think that is certainly the judges' pet peeves. We can only judge on what you guys are sending us. Half the times photos are not, they don't send proper photos.
They send the curb rashed one wheel shot.
One wheel shot, yes.
It's daily driven and
yeah.
it's just pothole heaven on the front of the bumper, right?
Right. Or they will send us a link and it's like a private link and we can't even view the photos, right? So that doesn't help
I
us.
think that's to make sure we do check, but
Yes.
we gotta follow them, right?
We do check. Yeah. It's and it's a lot of vehicles, and some days we get upwards of 20 registrations a day. And you think about it, that seems like a lot, but then it isn't when we have potentially.
When you look at the number of events and everything, relatively speaking, it's
3,000 competitors throughout the year. Some shows have like in Calgary and Toronto, it's going to be close to 500 competitors,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's a lot of vehicles.
We do turn away a lot too.
We do. I think roughly it's about, gosh, I don't know. I think I have to check the stats, but just based on what I'm seeing, about 20% is being turned away right now. So it's a pretty high number.
You elitist pricks.
Yeah.
Somebody
Well,
asked you.
and that's the other conversation, right? As it's obviously nothing personal, right? I think the judges have to base their decision on what has a potential to actually win a trophy, right? Win a category.
Win or at least be of interest.
Of interest, right? Absolutely. And really, I think the way to look at it is we're probably saving you money by not, putting your vehicle in the show. But you do get a lot for registration. I can kind of see that, right?
Yes.
eBay has stepped up heavily and is giving with every successul registrant.
I mean, you take this opportunity and let them know eBay's back as a sponsor for the 2024
Absolutely.
season.
And in a big way as well. They are very generous with both the competitors and the people who attend the show, right?
It seems like they want to help grow the community. It's not just about numbers.
No.
Which is shocking because I assume they would just be like, here's the metrics you have to hit, and if you don't, you're screwed.
Yeah, it's surprising because I've thrown stuff at them where I thought like, hey, this as a business you'd want, but no, they want to stay genuine in the sense that they really want to take care of the competitors, which I think is really cool. Gosh, I mean, how many people you see wearing? I mean, Avery's asking for more eBay sunglasses,
All the
right?
time.
Those aren't cheap to give away, so it's kind of nice that they're that generous with people. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
So
thanks
great-
for bringing that up.
Great
Jeff.
to have them back. It'd be
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah.
We need to get them on a podcast one day. Get somebody, because I'd love to chat with somebody from eBay.
Yeah. I think there's some eBay's got a long history, and the Motors team specifically really operates in a different way.
Yep.
And it's everything's, you think eBay, they think I gotta go bid on stuff, right? But it's not like that anymore. So that's a great podcast, and I think Jeff and I, we sat down, and I think we have some pretty good podcast subjects.
Some thoughts.
coming
Oh,
up.
yeah. I'm looking forward to a lot of it.
A lot of really good stuff coming up, right? So yeah, so the big news this year is that, well, really not big news. We're pretty set in our ways. For the most part, if you went to Driven last year, it's gonna fall on the same weekend this year, right? I think every show is gonna fall on the same weekend, except for our new venue or new city, which is London, Ontario, right? So I'm really excited. It's a great city. We looked at the venue. The venue is obviously a big part of the decision to go to any city. And the Western Fairgrounds, the Agriplex there, it's amazing. There's some really good things. I don't want to announce them now because there's some hurdles to pass, right?
Yeah. Make
But
sure you're locked in first.
Yes. We learned our lesson, i.e. Ottawa, right? We just gotta dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and that's gonna be super important. But London is gonna be a great show. Registration, surprisingly, we haven't put a lot of effort into really promoting London, but it's coming along really fast, which is good. People are reaching out to us, so I'm excited, and it's a great city, real good car culture
I was
city.
surprised by how many vehicles are actually like show quality that are going to be showing up so far.
You know what London reminds me of? It reminds me of kind of like the whole kind of like the Abbotsford area in Vancouver, where there's just a lot of guys who are just building some crazy stuff in their garage, right? They're not on social media. They're not out at every meet, but they do it for the love of it. And I'm really trying to convince those guys to come out for
Those are tough nuts to crack.
They
man.
are.
Those are so
They are.
hard.
There's
Like
some
those
cool
guys,
stuff.
because they have no ego. Like they don't care about flexing.
Yep.
Everything that car shows offer, they're just not interested in. So it's hard, man.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Versus, and we get this a lot, right? Guys who have like big Instagram followings, and you see their cars up close, and wow, it's a Avery, I'm sure you can comment on that, right?
It has its moments.
Yeah. God,
Yeah. I think that's the big news. The other big news is we are in a new venue for Toronto.
Which sounds, I haven't seen it, but it sounds amazing.
Jeff, there's only, I like all our venues, don't get me wrong, right? But I have, and I'm sure most of our competitors and people who've attended Driven Calgary when you walk in there and the the hair on the back of your neck starts to stand up because like the oval is just so epic, right? This venue has the potential to be that great, right? It's very rare that you're gonna find it's at the Woodbine Casino. So people in Toronto, the Woodbine Casino, like, does anybody ever go there anymore? It's gone through a massive renovation. Great Canadian Gaming, which we work very closely with, they run events at their Vancouver location, which used to be Hard Rock Casino, but now it's Great Canadian Vancouver. The venue, it's a underground parkade, but it's got 20 plus foot ceilings. They drive tractor trailers into this parkade, so it is massive, and there's no way we're going to use up all the space, but it's got that true Tokyo drift feel. It's fully indoors. It's all indoors, guys. And the venue itself is amazing because it has a great food court. There's even
I was going to say the amenities there, right?
The amenities there. There's a Tim's Hortons. Like,
Way
there's
overlooked, by the way. Like, going at shows in different areas, you need that amenity.
Oh, absolutely. If you don't have it, it makes for a painful show day.
But
absolutely.
Just speaking really quick, though, I got to give kudos to just that organization in general and the support they've done with us for Vancouver. Like, a lot of individuals don't know what happens behind the scenes, and there is some big card nuts that want to see the community grow in that area, and watching them kind of grow into wanting to expand it into other cities to be part of that, it's pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah. And I mean, I can just our experience with the Great Canadian team. They're really supportive of our events. There's some venues that just basically throw us the keys and say, "Here, have at it. Return it in the way that you took it." I mean, right?
It does happen even at the ones we've been doing it for so long. They expect, and I mean, our team itself, we know what we're doing. But some of the other venues who we're growing these relationships and we're watching it really expand, we're building that trust. But at the same time, they want to be involved.
Yeah,
right. And
for sure.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, even their marketing team has been really part of some of the decisions we've made. So yeah, really cool. I mean, lots more to announce. Lots more, coming. Right, where we've got some real cool feature cars that are going to make it to other events.
This is just the tip of the iceberg.
It's just a start.
We haven't announced anything.
Yeah, there's some neat stuff coming. And of course, if you guys have ideas, things you'd like to see, things you'd like not to see, ways that we can improve, as customers of ours, we want to hear from you. So please make sure you leave those in the comments.
And knowing if they know people in the community that there's hidden gems, get them out there.
Yeah, that's our goal, is to...
We want to bring things people haven't seen before.
Yes, absolutely. We do. And speaking of things people haven't seen, I mean, car shows in general, they change every year. I think there is a bit of a shift here, right?
Oh, yeah.
There is a bit of a shift, and it's not a pre-COVID thing. It's not it's a technology thing, right? To me, anyways.
The shift started high level before COVID.
It did. High
Absolutely.
level, yeah. And most evidently, I personally, I'm talking about EVs and the whole electrification of motor vehicles, right? And not speaking about driven specifically, but just the car shows themselves. Have you guys been to any of the latest car shows? I think there's only been a few. I think Toronto had one last year.
Montreal,
I think. Yeah.
And I think that's it for last year.
Did Quebec City have one? Maybe a dealer type
Possibly.
show? Possibly.
I'm not sure.
Within Canada, yeah, but
Within
I mean,
Canada.
U.S. has
Right.
their shows still that happen.
As of this podcast, we know that most shows are going. Edmonton, our hometown, is not.
No.
Yeah.
But my understanding is all the other auto shows are going to continue, but they will look different.
They will.
Because I think manufacturer support has dropped off, so it's a lot of just dealer supported
Significantly. What do you think that is, Jeff? I mean, it's obviously it's very evident. Like anybody who's been to the Toronto or Montreal show will notice some major OEMs not participating anymore, right? What are your thoughts on that?
I think while it was starting high level prior to COVID supercharged that. And it gave dealers and manufacturers an opportunity bottom line. Their bottom lines were not affected by not doing shows. So they took, and it's a big expense, right? Like I would go for a major manufacturer, probably $250,000 a city. that they now don't have to spend, and their sales numbers went up. So why would they keep going down that path?
And that was just because you couldn't gather during COVID, and they were like,
And
boy.
marketing has changed.
Yeah.
You can do your own marketing now. So
Yeah.
a dealership,
You don't need that big debut, right?
or they do it themselves and they control it themselves.
Got it.
And do it on their time, their terms and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's not going to go back.
Yeah.
I think it's Pandora's box, and there's no going back now, because they've proven that they can increase sales and reduce costs.
Right. Avery, have you, like, if you were going to an auto show, what kind of things would you expect to see right now versus a driven? This is like, we're talking auto.
Just general auto shows.
Show.
I mean, it's more to just see it in person. You know, I think of like Toyota as an example. You guys know I love my Toyotas. It's one of those you can actually witness and see the new TRD Pro truck, the little features that they showcased on social media, and you're going, oh, that's neat. Mm-hmm. But actually seeing it in person, there's some value that's there. I want to see those, what's changed. And for so many years, cars haven't changed much. No. And it feels like we're at that stage now. They're evolving, if that is into the EV kind of game or into the aftermarket area. And I'm even some booths and whatnot, I'm seeing a little bit more in that aftermarket aspect. And to me, that's exciting.
It's funny because I think that they're also starting to recognize that they went too far in some areas, and okay, let's bring back some physical buttons, right? And they're actually starting to build back physical buttons and not have everything run through a touch screen.
I love physical buttons, by the way. I had my very first head unit installed without a physical button, and I absolutely hate it. Like, I need that knob, right?
Yep. I'm the same way. I think it's an age thing more than anything.
Maybe.
But I'm the same way. But it's just
that's a different podcast about our ages.
That they're now kind of taking some steps backwards in some areas because they just went too far with it.
Yeah, and EVs, are we seeing a lot of, like, at the enthusiast level? Are we seeing a lot of EV? Like, we saw some of it.
But there's the other side of the coin that I think there's that political agenda that's being pushed quite heavily. Okay. And you hear the manufacturers. I mean, this year there's the Dodge Charger or whatnot that are not actually being manufactured anymore. I'm curious how that's going to go on, especially with the enthusiasts. They're almost like forcing it upon everybody. Mm-hmm. But the car nuts are still wanting that petrol side. They don't want to give that up, and I think
petrol will exist as a hobby, as a recreational vehicle endeavor forever.
But you think of Dodge, I'll use them as an example. Chargers, Challengers, they died off for a while, and then Mopar kind of grew back into it, and they encouraged it. They came back in a different way. But I mean,
do you ever see that enthusiast level for, I guess, an electric vehicle?
No.
Never.
No.
Interesting. Why not?
Because it isn't the same physical challenge, right? If you want to squeeze more power out of an electric motor, it's probably just an over-the-air update. Right. Whereas, you don't have to strip down to the short block and then, rebore the cylinders and increase display. There's a lot that goes into building a gas motor, an internal combustion motor versus an EV.
Yeah, it's a computer now. Pretty much it's like overclocking a computer.
It's a phone on wheels.
Okay. Yeah. So let me ask it in a different way then. Can car shows exist without the whole, in just an electric way?
No.
I don't think so. Personally, I think there has to be that mix of, I mean, don't get me wrong.
Eventually.
Yes.
But right now, the people adopting it are adopting it as a mode of transportation only.
Wow. That's pretty harsh for
the most part. That's not harsh. It's just the truth.
What I guess is
they're out there, but I just don't think the numbers per capita of EV drivers are as high as they are, For every 100 EV drivers, there might be one that is into modding, whereas as combustion motors, there's 25 that are into modding.
Especially in the climate that we have, right? Like, you think about the -50 that we just went through, having friends that have the EVs. There was horror stories. Like, they lost 200 kilometers just on the mileage alone, just from the freezing weather. And our climate, as much as we want to grow into that, that's going to be our kind of factor of pushing it full or not.
And something that's going to kill more than EVs is just general appetite, right? Like, cars don't represent freedom anymore. that has changed. That is a seismic shift. And I think that's a bigger threat to car shows than EVs.
Wow.
I think that they just, cars don't have the same cachet and meaning and value that they did to me when I was a kid. It's not the same. If you wanted to socialize, you had to go out.
Yep.
And that's all changed now. So I think that's a bigger threat to our shit than EVs are.
Okay. I mean, I personally am seeing, I mean, I keep my ears to the ground very heavily on this. There seems to be a lot more car meets. There seems to be a lot more car shows out there this year. I still think there's a lot of interest, but you're saying there's the next generation is going to be different, you think?
Well, no, I think the interest is there because lots of cars that were really expensive and highly desirable 15 years ago are attainable now, right? So that's going to carry on. I just don't think you'll see the level of newer vehicle. You know what I mean? Like they'll go after the existing ICE motors and build those before they start going on EVs. If they even go down that path. Like,
right.
I truly believe that the heyday, we've hit peak car, we've passed it.
Peak car.
And like I have a 15-year-old daughter, and she has no interest, zero interest
in any type. Well, that's that. We're seeing a lot of that. Absolutely.
And I saw a thing that said like the average age is now 26 for kids to get their driver's license.
Wow.
Right. So it's. I think that kind of stuff is a bigger threat than EVs. Okay. Like the Model T crowd. They're dead. Like that's gone, right?
Yeah,
like, nobody's going to carry that.
I
shit
think
on
there
anymore.
is a huge shift in that whole. I think that there's a lot of guys who, unfortunately, I think with COVID and 3 years of not being able to enjoy what they going to meets and going to car shows, a lot of guys have left it, right? Do you guys think then, as I guess on the regulation side? How's the regulation and the government and that all coming along? Is that getting better for enthusiasts? Are we seeing less people being ticketed? Are we causing our own issues by takeovers? Like, is that getting worse?
Dude, 50-year-old men are not out starting fucking takeovers. It's not happening. It's not us. So.
I mean, I debate that. I've seen 50-year-old guys peel out of car shows.
I agree. It's those guys.
They seem to be
the
just
exception. They're the exception, not the rule.
Okay.
They pretty much say, "Hold my beer, I'll show you how to do a burnout." When some other kid in a Honda is just revving his motor.
Yeah.
But there's the other side of the coin. Like, I don't know if it's what it used to be anymore. We lost what meets used to be. Like, it used to go hang out, have a coffee, and all this stuff, and now it's, I want to see somebody do something stupid. Not me personally, but that's the culture that's been created.
There's a lot of that,
right?
That seems to bring the people out, and you see it, right? Because there's the car show, and then there's the edge of the lot where everybody's hanging out because they're just waiting to see the cars peel out, right? And there's no one there at the car meet. I mean, not the car show. But
don't get me wrong. At L meets in the past, it's funny because we used to wait for somebody to do something stupid and make fun of them after the fact, and it feels like the crowds just become celebrating it, and that's what's deterring the cities and creating all these heavy laws because, like in our city, they're coming down heavy on exhaust, all of that noise complaints, in a downtown core that is already noisy, right? And how do you drive that support and whatnot? But even some of the buses that are electric and whatnot, as an example, they're still loud in their own right. Yeah. So I don't know what the agenda.
So has it gotten better or worse from a year ago?
From a year ago?
Yeah.
Way worse.
Way worse.
Way worse.
Jeff, better, worse?
I mean, it depends on how you're measuring it. They put out mandates that only EVs will be for sale or whatever in the year 2035. I don't even pay attention to that because that's 10 years away. Whatever current regime is in place will be replaced in those 10 years, and it will probably shift into some other direction. So I just don't put a lot of thought into it, to be honest. The noise complaint stuff, I mean, that's been going on for years,
Yeah.
and they still don't have a solution.
Someone once told me, someone's told me it's like guns. You'll never get rid of them.
Well, try.
Yeah. You'll try, but you'll never get rid of them, right? So, well, then let's talk about maybe perhaps those are the top things I think are kind of like the big changes for me or top of mind. But what have you seen that's gotten better, like at the shows, Avery? What are you seeing in like maybe not just Driven, but all other shows that you've seen in terms of the enthusiasts and their vehicles? What are the trends? What's getting better?
It seems fabrication's a big one.
Fabrication,
right now. The delivery of quality on engine builds
Mm-hmm.
has changed a lot. Welds, something as simple and minuscule as that, people are really focusing on those little details at the shows. But you think of the trend of wide bodies, and speaking of wide bodies of all our vehicles, it seems there's the growth of just slapping the body kit on or whatnot. But again, fabrication to metal,
custom.
It's gotten significantly.
We
better.
talk about this every year. I remember with this conversation we have it every year, right? And it's like, is this peak wide body? Are people going to go back to the original bodies? And it just seems like everybody's still doing it, right? I don't think that's going away.
Level, I think people are going into the bolt-ons, but they're trying to mold it now.
Okay.
That's the difference. It's not a matter of just bolting it on and using horrible hardware to do it.
Drywall screws.
We've seen that before.
Double-sided
right?
tape, right?
But it's they're trying to clean up OEM lines to make it just look natural.
Right.
And I think that is becoming more of a popular aspect than it is on the other side.
Do you have to rock a Rocket Bunny or Liberty
Not
Walk?
anymore. It doesn't feel like that. Like
Okay.
Rocket Bunny, as an example, or Liberty Walk kits, they were the hot commodity a couple of years ago. But I think now that's kind of been overplayed because you can buy the kit for replica kit, sorry.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to get those. Then it's we can joke and say Al Vincent's going to clean up the body kits, but that's becoming a thing of how do we make it better?
Yeah.
Ultimately, make it its own. I'm seeing more people want to define their car standing out now than doing the just status quo wide body going on. There's something different. They want it to stand out, and I give kudos to that.
Yeah. What about the whole kind of skater street culture, the lifestyle brand stuff, Jeff? Like, what are your thoughts on that stuff? Do you think it's going to be around for a while? It's exploded, right? Like
it has, and on that one, I just got to tell you, I'm not their target demo. So I don't know, the lifestyle, the brands, all that kind of stuff. I don't care.
I was at a beach, Sylvan Lake, and I walked around and I started just noticing what kids are wearing. I mean, when I was young, we all had the brand names, right? You had the brand names, right? No, I won't age myself and talk about that, but I'm at this beach and I'm just kind of like, this is not a car event, right? And I saw Ghost Gang, I saw brands of like other people that I've seen at Driven, right? So are kids, like, do you see more people just wearing this instead of the major brands like a Nike or like?
I'm seeing more individual brands than the bigger brands, but I mean, Nike shoes as an example, people showcase that. They almost build their car around it seems too, for the most part. So when they go to a car show, they're probably wearing matching shoes or whatnot. I don't think it's ever going to die. I think that's just our society that's been evolved around that to kind of define pushing the envelope, I guess, the money push on that, right? So I don't think it'll ever go, but it's starting to evolve a little bit into, interiors. We're seeing people do Gucci interiors, like those little details to match their personal, and I jump back to that personal style, but that fab aspect, I don't think it'll ever go away. It'll just evolve into how do they make it part of them.
The other one was wraps still big.
I think wraps, that should
be
go
around
forever.
for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cheaper way of a paint.
A few years ago, I think we were saying wraps are going to go away.
Did we?
Right? I think we talked about that. It was
I remember
gonna
you and Beaumont, I think.
Yeah, we talked about it. And we thought wraps would eventually go away. People go back to paint, but wraps are still
so
and
good.
it's evolving,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now PPF even comes in color, and there's just some really neat products out there, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of those things where it's just such a good alternative that it's never going to.
Plasti Dip dead.
I think
Gone.
Plasti Dip's gone.
Plasti
Liquid
dip,
dip?
yeah.
Gone? Okay.
It
Like-
feels like you can see the quality difference between them.
Well, because on a good wrap car, you're like, is this wrap or paint?
Yeah.
Yes.
On a plasti dip, that's never a question.
But wraps are lasting on cars for 5 to 8 years if they're, well, a sports car that's left indoors and not outside all the time. It's lasting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I will be the caveat that says nothing beats a good paint job. I'll be that guy because it's a
I at this
detail
point in
on
my life, I don't really care about paint. Like, that's just where I've gone.
I got
That's
my car
good.
wrapped, so I agree
Yeah.
in that case. From a money perspective, wraps still are the better way to go.
And just the flexibility they provide. Like
Yeah.
you want to run a green car for a few years and then flip it to red, go for it.
We've seen some real like custom like printed
Oh yeah.
wraps, right? Which
Well,
is-
they're embossing the vinyl too now,
Yeah.
right? Like I've seen gas caps with an embossed vinyl logo on them and
Yeah.
stuff. It looks great.
hydro dipping. So
Has that
popular.
ever taken off?
No.
Like that always felt niche to me.
Yeah.
Like I didn't.
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't
it
seen much
varies.
hydro dip.
More in the engine bay
Okay.
than anything
Yeah.
else that I'm seeing between like charge pipes or anything like that. Just that little skulls on it as an example.
Yeah.
That's it.
And real quickly, subcultures. The one that I saw, like we talked about EVs. Still haven't seen a big EV group, although. I have been contacted recently by some EV.
I will say this though:
enthusiasts.
the EV enthusiasts that are out there
Yeah.
are wonderful.
They're great people.
Great people.
Absolutely.
Great
I'm
people.
excited to see.
And in the racing
Yeah.
scene, starting
Yeah.
to grow.
Oh my
more.
gosh, we won't talk about it.
Because
but it's just-
Vancouver
what
had about 3 or 4 of them there.
absolutely it's going to change things
Oh, yeah.
completely. Yeah. But the other subculture I noticed that's getting really popular, and I mean you're going to echo this, I'm going to echo it, and is obviously the overlanding, right?
Yes.
Both
Oh,
Avery
yeah.
and I are big into that. That's huge. Which other one do you guys notice like it's really? I had a K car group join in Edmonton, which is really cool.
Like
I'm so excited about that.
KEI, like
KEI,
the Japanese.
the Japanese, yeah, like
Okay,
the little
I'm thinking
mini-
like the Plymouth K car.
No,
or
no,
something.
no, that we would lose all credibility if we said that. But yeah, K cars, right?
They're
Pretty cool.
becoming
Yeah.
popular.
Yeah.
They are
What
becoming
about
popular.
12 volt? Is that officially gone? Are we about to say, like we talked about it, we've had great guests saying their new stuff is coming, it's going to get more popular. I've not seen it. I've seen some cool stuff in the odd vehicles. We judge it.
I think
right?
it's there in the shadows
Mm-hmm.
still. When from our car show as an example, when you see a good 12 volt,
it's
stands
awesome.
out. It stands out.
I absolutely love guys who
Yeah.
do 12 volt. There's guys who hate it. There's guys who still show up with, their
Some of our biggest awards we've given, the
Absolutely.
reason it pushed them over the edge is because of 12 volt.
yeah, and the guys with like the Voltex and raised wheels, if they just lose it because they were like,
Yeah.
my Civic has all these Japanese authentic parts and lost this guy with a.
But then you
10,000
open up the
steer.
door and look at that interior and the trunk
it's a
or
car show.
back seats.
Yeah.
It's a car show.
It's a car show.
But I do think finding somebody to do a proper 12 volt in itself is
Harder and
super
harder now.
hard.
And very expensive.
Very.
Yeah.
But when you
You think
got
that
somebody,
that one of one Japanese wing you think is expensive? Boy, you
Oh,
look
yeah.
at some of the 12 volt stuff out there, and then
there's some
you'd be
shops that
surprised.
do
Yeah.
beautiful work, but when they pop that trunk and you're looking in, you see the details. I'm speaking selfishly in that perspective. That stands out every day of the week.
That's great. So summarizing, EVs, it's bigger, but isn't making anything worse or better.
No, it's just part of life.
Part of life. Custom fabrication, more of that, which is good. I think that's a great thing. We talked about, what do we talk about? We talked about the government and regulations. We think we're continuing to shoot ourselves in
We
the
can
foot
make a
in that
whole
one.
podcast
We're
on
making
that,
it
but we're
worse.
not gonna.
Yeah, and I think Jeff was really interested in challenging. And if you guys are one of those guys that love takeovers and want to sit in on a podcast and discuss it and kind of just speak the merits of it, and then
Expect
we'd
some
love.
hard questions at you, though, if
Yeah,
that's
we'd
the
love
case.
to have you join us. So maybe we'll
Sure.
get one of our. We got good connections with the police, like one of our main judges. Blocker is a police officer. We'd love to get his input on it. That's probably 2 or 3 more episodes, right? Rap is still good. What else did we talk about?
Shows, man. Shows.
Shows getting better in general.
We don't know yet
We don't know yet.
because I think they're in the process of changing. And,
Yeah.
and we don't know what it's going to look like when it's finished yet.
Yeah.
There's
So
an
time will
evolution
tell.
happening right now.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. Absolutely. Anything else you guys think is like worth mentioning about shows and changes this year that you think is
Nothing jumps out. I think that 2024 will be the first year since like 19 that it's kind of a full schedule and
Yeah.
there's a bunch of shows happening.
yeah, everything's
So
behind us, right?
This year will be very telling as far as shaping future years. We'll see
Absolutely.
how everything goes.
Yeah. And if you guys have some great comments or ideas or trends you think we'd like to have us talk about or even join us on a podcast, please do so. Avery, thanks for joining.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Sorry about making you late for the Oilers game.
I'm just hoping, well, at this point, depending on when this airs, hopefully it's going for 16 here. So
Absolutely. Yeah. As always, Jeff, we got some really great topics. We'll see you guys at the next podcast. Thank you.